Hey, Kat Chancellor here with Stamp Art Connection and StampArtConnection.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I have another fancy fold thanks to Sam Calcott of Mix Up Craft. This is she called a Bendi card, and it will fold flat. It will fold flat, but then when you release it, it will pop up, and it has this really nice kind of a V fold here, and then it has a little mechanism back there that pops up the inside flowers, and because we're using acetate, it creates a really nice window. I definitely recommend, if you're interested in this card, check out her video, but I'm going to go ahead and construct this card using Stampin' Up! Products, and a lot of these are bundles that you may recognize. Some of them I've featured. I have Daffodil Daydream, Pansy Patch, and Hydrangea Heaven that are going to make up our flowers in here. And let me kind of go through some of the products that you're going to need. You're going to need some Whisper White cardstock. I'm using some DSP, and I've got a lot of colors here. I'll go through the colors separately because we're going to have to build these flowers, and I'm going to build them individually. I've got my little muffin tin here that we're going to sit down and build those, so that you basically will get a tutorial on how to build these flowers. I have some ornate border dies that I'm using to kind of decorate this edge here. I'm going to kind of pull it in there so you can see it. It's a little short, so I'm going to try to fix it on this next version that I'm doing. I also have something called basic border dies. Here's another product that may work nicely, so I kind of pull that in as an alternative, as well as all the dies for the flowers. So let me just kind of put these aside and kind of go through all the pieces and parts that we're going to need for this card. Again, I've got my muffin tin full of flowers we're going to put together. You're going to need a piece of acetate, and before we cut that, let me show you what the base card. The base card is going to be 8 by 6, and we're going to score that, and I'll show you how we're going to score it. Let me kind of bring in this paper. This might help if I have this kind of here. 8 by 6, we're going to score it 1 inch, 4 inch, and 7 inches, and then we're going to cut this acetate sheet down to 7 by 6 inches, and we're going to score that by 1/2 and 6 1/2. Then we have some little mechanisms here. Well, these are the two edges here, and these measure about 6 inches by, I believe they're 1 1/4. We're gonna have those right there to kind of serve as the outside. So you're gonna need 2 of those, 6 by 1 1/4. This is the little flower curve mechanism that's going to go inside our card that that our flower bouquet is going to be placed on. And then I'm using, and you may recognize this, I'm using this DSP, lovely DSP. It was part of Celebrations. This was free. You can see I've used it up. I love this pattern here. This is the pattern that I'm going to be using. I'm going to need 2 of these cut 6 by 2 3/4. Now the way this card is constructed is that Sam's used these backings to basically mask the lip of this acetate that's going to go inside there. She built it first and then tried to put the flowers inside. I'm going to build the inside, and then we're going to put the acetate dome over it. You're gonna need some tear tape. I've used some glue to kind of get the corners. It's a lot neater the way Sam did it, but I needed to have the space in order to build in order to build this bouquet. So you can see here as well is that we're going to be doing some heat embossing. Now this is Stampin' Up window sheet, and it worked perfectly. There's just a tad bit, and you can just see there's just a tad bit of a warp, but you're going to need your heat gun because the Stampin' Up heat gun has a setting for low. So you're going to need your heat gun in order to do your embossing. And I have my little embossing tray. You're going to need Versamark and some white embossing powder. Now, I will tell you that the only way to get the Versamark perfect is with your Stamparatus. So here I already have my my piece that has been with the same arrangement as I did this, but you can see that I have these are kind of close, so I think I'm going to kind of spread this apart so you can see the how pretty the bouquet is. So that's going to be kind of an accommodation I'm going to make to this particular card that we're going to put together. So you're going to need your Stamparatus. Now these are sentiments that come from primarily, let me see if I have the Happy Mother's Day from the Daffodil Dream. That sentiment is from the Peaceful Moments stamp set, and it says here, thinking of you with all my heart. So I thought that was a nice sentiment because I think this would just make a beautiful Mother's Day card. And I guess I should have led with that, but I have all these pieces all over my desk, and I'm just trying to get through them. You're going to need a glue gun to adhere the bouquet. It works much better and faster and in a much more secure, you can see how nice and tight those are, than using any kind of glue. But of course, we will use our multi-purpose glue, and I did use some of the multi-purpose adhesive backing for adhering this very ornate die piece on the side. And we'll see if I do that, I may change my mind and try something different. But I think it actually worked. It actually worked well. I did cut, because this piece was kind of short, I did cut a backing piece because I used that adhesive sheet. I had adhesive kind of on this lip that came out of the back, so I had to kind of cover that up so that I had that secured. So we may have to cut another piece for the back as well as the front. And you can see I decorated the back. You could put another piece of a Whisper white cardstock, or rather basic white cardstock, and have your sentiment here in the back. And I haven't done that yet. I didn't embellish my back, but I may do that for this version that I'm putting together. I did use this punch, this daisy punch. You may remember I just a couple of weeks ago I did use, and this is the medium daisy punch that's available in the catalog. And you can see I have hydrangeas. I have a big pansy in the middle. I'm using 2 daffodils, and then I just use like a half a daisy here. And we're going to pretty much come up with the same arrangement. I'm very happy with that. I think that's all. I think that's all we really need. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, before we start assembling our flowers, let's make sure we have all our pieces cut and scored. We have cut the base card, and we're going to, let me grab my scoreboard. We're going to score this on the 8-inch side. We're going to score it at 1 inch, 4 inches, and 7 inches. Okay, then we're going to take this curve, which this measures, this little piece here, this is going to be the curve that we're going to apply our bouquet. This is 4 inches by 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches. We're going to score this at 1/2 inch and 3.5. Essentially, it's going to be a 1/2 inch on both sides. We're going to have to cut our acetate, and we're going to have to score that. I'm going to use my stamping trimmer. Let me just move these over here. And my acetate is going to cut, this is just a window sheet from 12 by 12 window sheet. This is going to be, we're going to cut it in half at 6 inches because it's 12 by 12. Okay, so we can put that aside. And then the piece we're going to use for the card is going to be 7 inches. So there's 7 inches right there. And we're going to cut that. Now, this is going to have to be scored at it's going to be scored at 1/2 on both sides. So I'm going to just put this right here at 1/2. And I'm going to close this. And then I'm just going to run my scoring piece over that, and I have that scored. And then this, again, it's going to be another 1/2, and I can use this side and do that at 1/2, and I'm going to run that scoring piece all the way across, and I have both sides are scored at 1/2 an inch, and that's going to be my dome for my card. So we go ahead and put that aside, because the next piece we're going to cut is we're going to cut the background pieces, and I'm going to need a 6 by 2 3/4, and let's see, let's do it this way. We're going to have 6 and this should be 2 3/4, because the back of this is about 3 inches right there. It's about 3 inches. So I want to go probably as close to 3 inches instead of 2 3/4. I don't want so much of an edge. I might go what is it, 3 7/8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I'm going to go 2 7/8. Let's do that. And let's do this one, 2 7/8. Now, I'm going to use this for the back. So I'm going to cut this one 2 7/8 as well. These are going to be my back panels. And I'm going to cut this one 2 7/8. So I have 4 pieces 2 by 7/8 for both the inside of my card and for my back panels. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I think we've cut all our pieces. Now what I'm going to do is we have everything cut and scored. This is extra, so this is going to go over here. So let me clear out my extra pieces that I don't need. And I believe, oops, this is an extra piece as well. And we're just going to go ahead and let's just grab our bone folder, and this piece is going to go this way, And then this piece is going to go this way. And that creates the inside of our card. Then on the inside we're going to have this little tab that we're going to fold this piece back, and we're going to fold this piece back. And what we're going to do is you take this and you're just going to kind of run that like that, and that's going to give you the little arc that you need, because we're going to put that right there in the middle of our card. And the way we're going to glue it is we're just going to glue it like that. And I am just going to grab some tear tape and we're just going to place that down. And glue that. Now before I glue this, something that we have to do is, okay, so that's ready to go in the background there. But we want to take these pieces here and we want to adhere them along the back of our card like that. Now because I'm going to have this acetate piece, and I'm going to go ahead right now, we're going to fold this along the crease. Like that. Okay, so I've got that fold there. Then we're going to fold this one. And it is hard to crease this, so you just got to kind of pinch it a little bit. And then once you kind of pinch it, then you can kind of hold it and then use your... Now, the way Sam Calcott built this is that she so this is an option. She went ahead and she put the tear tape on this, and then she basically built it like that. Then she put these pieces in here to cover that seam right here of the acetate, and then she put in this centerpiece. And it just seemed like it was a lot to do underneath this acetate. So I'm going to save this for last. And we're going to kind of straighten this out because there's a step I forgot. So, because we're going to have to heat emboss this. All right. So we need to go ahead and put this here. But what I want you to do when you do this is not to glue all the way to the edge so that we have a lip. Okay, we need a lip for that acetate to cover that acetate. So the way I want to do that, and I kind of want it to go like this, because you can kind of see how our flowers are going to be, is we're going to go ahead and I'm going to flip this like this, because this piece here, I want the tear tape to go. I'm going to put a piece of, or rather I'm going to use some glue, and I'm only going to put the glue up to about an inch. You push this up. I'm only going to put the glue up to about an inch from the edge. Okay, so let's just grab this. We're going to just put some glue and I'm not putting it all the way to the edge. I want this edge here to be kind of free of glue. And we're going to go ahead and we're just going to line that up like that. And if it pokes out, we'll trim it. But there you go. Okay. And then, see, I have a lip here so I can slip my acetate inside. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing here. Just going to take my piece, I'm going to flip it over. And I don't want, I'm just going to kind of put it up to about there. And that's the end of where I want my glue. Okay, and then I'm just going to go ahead. I've got some wiggle room here. And here's my free edge, see? And I'm going to go ahead and put that down. Now, if I've got anything poking out the back, you know, just trim it, because this was cut exactly to size. This was 6 by 2 7/8, right? Okay, and I'm just cleaning. I have a little bit of glue kind of poking out. And all right, so that's our inside. Now I can take, this is where our bouquet is going to be, and I want that perfectly centered because we're going to build our bouquet. So I'm going to we're basically going to put the glue, and then we're going to flatten it out, and that glue is going to adhere, and then when it pops up, it's going to be perfect. So let's go ahead and pull off. Let's go ahead and pull off the tear tape. Now I may just put, you know how I like my glue here. I just may put some glue where the tear tape isn't, because I just want to make sure. And I'm just using my little... Okay, so now let's go ahead and center this. And you know what? I'm just going to put a little crease. I forgot to do this. So what was this? This was 4 inches. So let me grab, oops. So that was 3 inches. Yeah, that's 3 inches. So I'm just going to put just an itty bitty little mark here at 1.5. Boom. Okay, I got a little gray. I got a little mark there. I know I can see it, but it's something that you want to do for yourself. Okay, and there it is. So there's my, I have an itty bitty little mark. You can barely see it. But, okay, so there's a hack for making sure that you get that centered. And I'm just going to go ahead and hold that down. And boom, there it is. So there is the center of our card. Okay, so now that we've done that, what I want to do is I'm going to flip this around, and we're going to put these on the back end. We're going to put these on the back end of our card, because it's too hard to do once you have built your front end. So let me just grab this here. And then what's nice about this paper is that pattern does go all the way across. All right, and then we can, just going to grab, and if I need to trim this, Like I said, you can just always just grab your scissors and trim that down. Okay, so there we go. We have our inside and our back. All right, and now we're going to grab our Stamparatus and our acetate. And I'm going to place the acetate in the Stamparatus like that. And then this, let's see, we want to make sure we have the center of our acetate. So our acetate center, remember that was 7, so the center should be is 6. So right here along this line right here is the center of our acetate. I think I'm going to keep it. I'm just going to put this one kind of up here, and then this one right about there. So let me see if I've got that centered. And I think I've got that centered. Okay, so now let's pick that up with my plate. Alright, now to get my surface ready, I have a alcohol wipe, and I have some alcohol, and I'm just going to kind of wipe this down because I just want that clean, and it's dry. I can see it dry. I'm kind of looking at it from the side. I'm going to grab my Versamark, my powder, and I'm just going to very lightly just kind of touch the top of my acetate with my little embossing buddy here. Just very lightly, just almost like you're powdering your nose. Alright, then we're going to grab our Versamark, and we're just going to if I think I have a little piece of hair I need to pull off my thing because I want to make sure. Okay, I have that there. I'm just going to press that lightly. Okay, and that went well. So now we're going to pull this out. I'm going to bring in my white embossing powder. I'm going to flick it as much as I can to get off any of the excess that I may have on that. Let me just put that there and kind of clean up my little area here. I've got my heat tool. I'm going to turn it on low, and I'm just going to wait for it to get kind of warm. Okay, and then I'm very gently going to just kind of work in a circular motion, because I don't want to stay in one place, because if I stay in one place, that is what is going to buckle our acetate. So you kind of want to move it around, and you can see it is beginning to, I'm going to put it over here so you can see it. It's beginning to melt. Again, I'm just going to kind of work it around like that, and I think it's melted. Okay, so there it is. It's totally melted, and I have a nice image that's going to go on the top. Now I can kind of refold these now that I kind of folded them and unfolded them so I could put it in the Stamparatus. But there you go. Now you can take your alcohol one more time. And this is an alcohol wipes. It kind of went a little dry on me, so I have alcohol right here. And I'm just going to wipe this off. And what it's doing is it's kind of removing some of that emboss. Oh no, it's not. It's actually taking the whole thing off. That didn't happen before. Why is it happening now? I'm just going to let that dry. Or I kind of buffed it. You can see, kind of had to work it a little bit, but there you go. So it's going to come out. It's going to come out perfectly on our thing. Okay. So now that we have all our pieces and parts cut, we're done with the heat gun. We can go ahead and begin to assemble our bouquet. So I'm going to put these aside. What you're going to do, if you kind of look at our sample here, let me get this light out of the way. Okay, so here's our sample. So you're going to need, I'm using two of these two hydrangeas are basically going to be what you're going to adhere the entire bouquet on. Because if you adhere, and I want you to look inside this, do you see how everything, these hydrangeas are on this little arc, okay? They're on the arc of this piece of paper, this pop-up piece. If you glue anything on either side of these, you're going to not allow this to fold flat and then pop up, because it will tear, right? Because you want to have as much free space here on both sides of that piece, right? Of our arch piece. This is our kind of our flower curve that we're going to adhere the flowers on. All right. So the largest flowers that I thought to use are going to be the hydrangeas. So I've cut two hydrangeas. One I think is in petal pink and the other one is in fresh freesia. And I'm going to also pull in, you may remember these, this is our shaping tools that I've used before. I'm going to pull in my shaping tool because we're going to shape these. And I'm going to pull in my glue. So what we're going to do is I've used the die and I've cut the hydrangea, and then I've used the leaf die in, and I believe this is Mossy Meadow and Old Olive are these two colors here. All right. I'm then going to kind of, I want to kind of bring some of these forward, so I'm just going to kind of bend them like this. We're just going to grab this, and we're just going to kind of pull some of these. I'm going to pull some of these up. But before I pull those up, I'm going to grab, don't want to get ahead of myself. We're going to grab our little sponge daubers here. And I have fresh freesia. And I have fresh freesia ink right here. And we're just going to go ahead and we're going to color. And I've used this die to cut this out, okay? So I'm just coloring. Then I have used this die, and I have cut out these flowers here, and we're going to adhere those onto this piece, and we're going to use our sponge dauber here just to kind of give them a little bit of color. This is tedious, but this is what it takes to make these, to make your bouquet, because it's going to look just gorgeous if you take these extra steps. Okay, so these are our dies. We just set those aside. And now we're going to I'm just going to grab my shaper, and we're just going to go ahead and pull in. I'm just going to pull some of these in. And that's just going to kind of give it just a little bit of, see, a little bit of dimension. We're going to do the same thing here. Let's pull these in just a little bit. Okay, so you can see how that's kind of giving it a little bit of shape. Now, we're going to grab these, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to curl these up. Okay, so we have those two there. Make sure I have them all. Alright, so now we're just going to grab a tweezer and some glue, and we're going to, if you look at our sample, we kind of have them on the outside edge, so I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to grab these, and I'm just going to then we're just going to match that up to that. Okay. We're going to ideally just snip this off right there. Because I just kind of want to get okay, so let's go ahead and add this one. Let's snip this one. So now that we've completed the hydrangeas, which are really the key flowers that we need to anchor our bouquet on, we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to speed this up quite a bit as I talk through this, otherwise this will be a very long video. But I'm kind of spritzing my daffodil pieces with a little bit of water, and I'm using my shaping tool because I want to kind of give them a little bit more 3D dimension than they have when you just go ahead and put them together and they're flat. So that's what I'm doing here. And then we're going to go ahead and assemble them. And this is something, I have a video that shows you how to do this, so if you need some pointers, I refer you to that. So we're just going to go ahead and hop forward. The stock for this bud, for this daffodil bud, is in Old Olive, and I've cut 2 pieces because that stock needs to be rather stiff because it's a key element in our bouquet. Here are all the leaves. They are either from the pansy dies or from the hydrangea dies, and I'm using either Mossy Meadow and Old Olive, and the lighter one there is soft sea foam. The pansy is cut out of fresh freesia, and I'm using fresh freesia on a sponge dauber to kind of add a little bit of color to my leaves. And I'm then going to bring in my my shaper, and I'm going to very gently shape these. I don't want to overshape them, but since this is the center blossom to our bouquet, we really want this to be nicely shaped. So that is cut out of fresh freesia, and these little edges that go around them, those are done in rich razzleberry, and the other ones are done in Highland Heather. And I'm just using some fine tip glue. If you very delicately shape them, then these little petal edges will fit nicely around the edge. I cut an extra one and I'm putting it on that, and you'll see I'm going to shift out because I believe I need the fresh freesia or the Highland Heather piece here that's going to accent the 2 little petals for our pansy. And the pansies can be done in so many colors, but I basically chose colors that kind of harmonize with my DSP. Again, taking a sponge dauber with some Highland Heather just to kind of around the edge, and some rich razzleberry just to make sure that the flower has just a little bit more dimension. And I'm doing that to the bud as well. So now we're going to assemble our pansy. We begin by putting the 2 top little petals together, and I'm gluing them with my fine tip glue, and then adhere it, and it makes a nice concave kind of shape since I've used the shaping tool. There's the little black centerpiece. I've also shaped that so that it'll fit very nicely on the inside of my flower. I'm putting a little dab of glue for that little centerpiece that I'm also shaping, so that will have a nice little shape there. And there it is. So that's our pansy. Now the little bud that's going to go off on the side is also going to be shaped, and I'm going to adhere that on this nice little stem that's part of the pansy dies. That's really cute. Again, everything's kind of shaped so that it has some dimensions, including the leaves. And if you're very delicate, even though you have several layers of cardstock, you can very delicately shape these leaves as well. There's the daisies. I do have a recent video on putting together the daisies, and I will ensure to have all these links either on my blog or here in I'll include them in the video. I'm using Daffodil Delight to just add just a little bit more color to my daffodils so that they kind of stand out and everything looks a little bit uniformed, since I do have a lot of color on my pansies. All of these things are your judgment and how you want your bouquet to look, but I just really think that this particular arrangement is really is really beautiful. So turn on your hot glue gun. That is what I'm using for putting together all my flowers, particularly because it's going to glue fast and you're going to get a very secure adhesion. So to begin with, what I wanted to do here is just kind of mark a very light center line, because your hydrangeas are going to be the only blooms that are attached to this white center curved piece of our card. All the other blooms are going to be attached around that. Now I'm making sure to be careful to ensure that our pretty little blossoms that we added to our hydrangeas are kind of on the top and bottom, and I've kind of offset those hydrangeas as well so that I can begin to arrange the flowers around them. So after the hydrangeas are adhered, you want to put the pansy as the next flower piece right there in the center. So for this arrangement, once you have adhered the hydrangeas and the pansy, those are all that are going to go on that white centerpiece. All the other blossoms are going to be placed either glued on the top or on the bottom of the different petals. Now, if you're going to use a stalk like this pansy or this daffodil stalk, you want to put that in your arrangement soon after you place your key blossoms, because it'll be harder to kind of fit that between any of the other flowers that you're arranging. So you're kind of starting from the inside out, where you have your three main flowers, and then you're putting anything that's going to go kind of to the inside of your bouquet goes next. Then you want to kind of put your secondary major blossoms, and in this case these are the daffodils, and you want to glue those to the back of put glue to the back of those petals and then glue them directly onto the hydrangea, as I've done here. There's one more flower that we could put in there, and that's the other daffodil. But before you go too far with the flowers, you can use your foliage also as another way to adhere anything to your bouquet. So in this case, I'm going to add these leaves to the back of my petals, and then what it does, and again this is going directly to the back of my daffodil petals with my hot glue, what it does is it gives you a little bit more surface area to add any other of the smaller flowers, and you'll see that in the middle, in a minute. Here's our next flower, our daffodil, and I'm just kind of playing around with what I want next, and I'm going to go ahead and I put the glue on the back of the daffodil petals and then just kind of glued that on to my pansy. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'll play some music, and you can see how the rest of the bouquet takes shape. after you put everything together, you can always go back and kind of add a little bit more glue so you can make sure that all your bouquet is kind of nice and secure. You can see it does bend nicely and everything kind of fits. That moves a little bit too much. I'm just going to add a little bit of glue so that it just kind of touches the edge of that pansy and kind of is just a little bit more secure. But otherwise, I think it came out well. So now we'll go on and move on to our next step, which is placing the acetate piece that we've prepared over the top. And the way we're going to do it is we're just going to, that lip of the acetate is going to fit inside between the cardstock and our DSP. And we're going to go ahead and adhere it, and then we're going to do the edges. Now, I am using just some of my 3-in-1. This is a fast drying glue that dries very securely. And I'm just going to place that there between the paper, and then I'm going to kind of press my DSP against the glue. And I recommend using some kind of long implement, either your take-a-pick tool or your bone folder. And I'm going to do the same right here. There's plenty of room. I'm going to be rather generous with the glue and just kind of put a nice heavy bead all the way along the inside, and then I'm going to go ahead and slip that lip of the acetate in between, and it gives you plenty of time to kind of fiddle with it. And then that's how I recommend holding it while it's drying. And there's my bone folder. I recommend using your bone folder and another tool if you have 2 bone folders, just to kind of hold it in place. Now, don't go pulling it apart like I did, because that's only going to aggravate the situation. So you may have to just kind of add a little bit of extra glue. So don't pull it apart until the glue has dried. So I was getting a little impatient there. So that's just a little tip. Another tip is, if you have a very fine tip hot glue gun, you can go ahead and do that as well. But once I left it alone, I let it dry. It did dry well, but you kind of have to give it a few minutes and ensure that it adheres. Okay, so now that we have created our card, we're going to work on our ends. Now, here is a die that comes from this set. Maybe retired. It's the Ornate Border dies, but there's other dies that you may have, such as the basic border dies. But I'm going to use this die, and I've already cut a piece here, and I've cut this out of, I believe it's a little bit over 1 inch, because this die itself is exactly 1 inch wide. So I took this cardstock, which was a little bit over 1 inch. You can see right there. Okay, so here is another piece that I cut right here, and this is exactly 1 inch. Alright, so what you're going to get out of this die is you're going to get one side that's going to be has an edge, and this is the side we're going to put along this edge here to fit, and this is exactly 6 inches long, and that's going to be our side. So let me go ahead and cut this one. This is 1 inch by 6, a little bit over 6. I think it's actually, yeah, maybe 6 1/8 or something. a little bit over 6. So we're going to put this die in the middle of this cardstock right like that. And then I want this right here. And what I want to avoid is I don't want this to go over that lip. I want it to fit right on that lip. And if I have a little bit over the edge, I can trim that. So let's look at this. Okay, that's pretty good. That's exactly what I want. Okay, I want it to go right up to the edge here and then just right up to that lip. Now, how are we going to glue these on? Okay, so the way we're going to glue them on is I'm going to take my little Xyron here, my little Xyron, and I am going to run this one through this. I'm going to rub this here, rub this. Oops, then I'm going to pull it off. And I may have some goopies, but I'm going to kind of use my finger because what I want to do is I'm trying to pull the goopies off these, I'm calling them goopies, kind of off these, my open areas here. And you can see I pretty much pulled them off. Let me just move this so you can kind of see how I kind of these little strings right here is what I'm trying to. So then I'm going to line this up right along the edge. And I don't mind if this goes over just a tad or should pretty much meet it. Okay, and I don't have any overlap there. And I just maybe have just a tad of an overlap right there, which I can trim. But there you go. Now, you can grab this and kind of pull out any, I'm calling them kind of like the gummy goopies, but you can see how nice that looks. You see how nice that looks? So now we're going to do this other side. Again, I'm going to grab this. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? So it just adds a really nice effect to our card. Now, to build the envelope, you have a couple of options. Here is my original card, and I built this envelope, and I made enough room that I could kind of fold this up a little bit, and it's going to fit in an envelope, but it's kind of tight. And the way I would do it is I would just kind of fold those down, and there you go. Okay, that's for my original piece. Now when I made the envelope for this, okay, here's same envelope, and I'll show you how I did it. I did the same thing, but it fit a lot better. See how it fit? Look at that. It fits a lot better. It's something that has to be hand delivered. You can't mail this, but you do have an envelope for it. Now, let me show you how I did this and how you may want to make any changes. So you're going to need a piece of DSP, and you're going to have to use an envelope punch board. In this case, I'm making this envelope 6 by 8, so I need an 11 by 11 piece of designer series paper. I'm using that lovely Dainty Flowers 12 by 12 designer series paper that we've been using for this particular card. And you just simply score and punch, and then turn it around and punch your corners so they're nice and round. Now what I'm also doing, just to kind of accommodate the size of this card after I fold all the edges, is that I'm going to place the card in the middle so that I can kind of accommodate the fact that it is kind of a little bit of a thicker card. But I would still recommend, even though you do this, you know, I think if you just made the card to, or made the envelope to the original specifications and just fold those flaps back, I think that would be fine, because I found that after I made this envelope, the card was still a little bit too tight for the 6 by 8 envelope. So I'm just going to go through and show you how I put this together. But again, my recommendations are, if you make this, go ahead and fold those little flaps back. I just kind of miscalculated where my tear tape was, so I'm just very carefully going to peel that back and then cut it off so that I don't have it showing or kind of protruding beyond where I need adhesive. There you go. So that peeled back nicely. Now I can go ahead and put my card in there and kind of fold. There you go. Kind of fold to the thickness, and just kind of get rid of any of the more little adhesive goopies that I may have left. It's going to be a little off, but it's still going to work. You just basically kind of fold it, and I'd wrap it up with some ribbon, and there you go. Or you can make a bigger card based on your envelope punch board. So there you go. This is a great project for Mother's Day. It uses all kinds of Stampin' Up products, especially all the wonderful Daffodils, Hydrangeas, and Pansy Patch. If you haven't already, please hit like. All products are available on my online store. There's be a link included. Go to my blog for all the project details. Hey, if you're looking for a demonstrator, please consider me. You can join as a hobbyist and enjoy a 20% discount. If you are a demonstrator and like my content, please support my channel by hitting like, share, and leave a comment. This is Kat Chancellor with Stamp Art Connection at stampartconnection.com. Thank you for joining me, and happy stamping.